From unique hands-on training for dealing with hate crime to an extreme case of criminal harassment online, and just how much power should police have during an arrest. Our Wednesday crime panel is here, and joining us this evening, defense lawyer Dino Bottos and Irfan Chaudhry, criminology instructor at MacEwan University. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello. Good evening.
Great to see you. All right. In an attempt to better understand how gender minorities are treated in their city, Edmonton police recruits took part in a social experiment way back in 2004. Two male EPS trainees walked down Edmonton's busy White Avenue holding hands to gauge responses. For what may have been the first time in their careers, the officers reported feelings of fear, and they were exposed to aggression when it comes to hate crimes. Those experiences known all too well. In 2014, there were 155 reported hate crimes motivated by sexual orientation in Canada, and over 60% of those cases were considered violent in nature. Irfan, to you first, as a member of the Alberta Hate Crime Committee, you've reviewed a lot of data from EPS. What really stands out for you from that data?
Well, similar to what you just mentioned just there, in terms of just the level of violence some of these hate crimes have towards those that self-identify with sexual orientation. And I think that's something we're noticing is probably going to be unfortunately increasing as society gets more aware of we're trying to build a more welcome and inclusive city and country for that matter. But at the same time, there are those folks that still don't agree with a lot of different mindsets. And one of the different aspects that makes it a little bit more challenging is, other forms of hate crime when it's based on race, for example, and even to some extent religion, it's more visible. So those individuals that don't have a liking for certain groups, if they don't like people from a certain race, for example, it's visible for them who to target, who to attack. Whereas with sexual orientation, over the last number of years, because it's becoming more open and awareness for people to have that, awareness of different sexual orientations, that's where I think these types of crimes are increasing a little bit more because of the way society is progressing a little bit. So that's one of the things we notice a lot for sure.
But a lot of those go unreported though, still. Do they not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the challenges with hate crimes, similar to other crime types like sexual assault, for example, is there's a fear that, you don't want to be secondary victimized, right? So if you're going to be reporting this to the police, for example, well, I have to relive through this, not only through the police reporting, but then even if it gets media attention, now it being branded about through the media in a more public forum. At the same time, though, there are individuals that think the police really can't do anything. And to some extent, that's a concern, because if they aren't reporting crimes to the police because they feel they can't be doing anything, that's where I think a little bit more outreach and awareness needs to be done on the policing side. But then also, on the other hand, that difference between a hate crime versus a hate incident is a key aspect, because police will only get involved if there's a crime. If there's an incident, as unfortunate it is, and it's not hitting any criminal element, that's where there'll be a little bit of a disconnect between what the expectations might be.
Well, and how fine a line is it when you consider freedom of speech?
Well, we value freedom of expression and freedom of speech in our society because we're a democratic society. So we are careful not to encroach on people's freedom of expression. And where we tip the balance and where we say you've crossed the line is when you are advocating the promotion of hatred towards an identifiable group, which includes also promoting a genocide towards an identifiable group. And identifiable groups can be identified based on sex, sexual orientation, race, color, religion, and so forth. So there is a balance struck in our criminal law whereby we do criminalize hate propaganda and the promotion of hatred and the promotion of genocide towards an identifiable group. But we also allow for legitimate political speech to be made without criminalizing that. So in that balance, though, it creates a difficulty in actually prosecuting the hate monger, because the hate monger, if he's clever enough, will always be able to claim, or in most cases claim, that he is speaking the truth, or he is speaking the likely truth, or that he is speaking on a topic that is legitimate and relevant for the public domain. And so if he can fit himself into those exceptions, he's actually not committing a hate crime at all, which makes it very difficult to prosecute. And that's that's because of the balance we strike between criminalizing true hate speech on the one hand and allowing for political speech on the other hand.
So is that a fine line that requires a tweaking of legislation then?
Well, many people would say that the legislation strikes the right balance right now, because if you are promoting hatred, one of the defenses is whatever you're speaking of is truthful. So you can use facts to promote hatred and you're not committing a crime. On the other hand, if you are speaking or if you are spewing hatred with lies, then you've crossed the line and you should be convicted. There are other exceptions, as I was saying, that they're pretty wide exceptions, and you can, you know, the clever hate monger will be able to hide within one of them or several of them if he's careful in how he advocates his rhetoric.
Okay, Irfan, a quick thought.
Yeah, just in terms of, you know, that dichotomy of like the smart hate monger, I think we don't see, thankfully, much of those. But at the end of the day, we're just seeing what's happening in the United Kingdom with Brexit, right, and the fallout to the referendum there, and the amount of increases in awareness of reported hate crimes now towards immigrants specifically, and even the number of hashtags that have unfolded as a result of people being legitimately fearful of their lives. It's really something that's creating more panic right now, and I think just because of the social conditions we're seeing out there. And I think as these types of issues become more prevalent, hopefully not, but if they do become more prevalent, that's where we do need our laws to stand up for those individuals that feel they have been victimized by hate speech or a hate crime or anything that demeans their identity.
All right, up next, a BC website where a man allegedly sets out to destroy his ex-wife's reputation and why she can't shut it down. More from our crime panelists after the break.